How's it going, people? Welcome to another exciting, awesome episode of Horror with Sir Sturdy. Today I have my guest Troy. Now I tried to pronounce your last name. I'm gonna butcher it.
It's fine. Okay, so if you want to be technical and pronounce it the correct Hispanic way, it's Escamilla.
Es-
Um,
Oh,
Escamilla, because double L's in Spanish are Y's. However, I grew up in Iowa, so trying to explain that to people there was, got to be old. So I just always said Escamilla. But either, yeah, I know
I mean Escamilla. That's easy though.
it is. But yeah, again, when you're not around a lot of people that know
Yeah, I get,
Spanish, they
I
they
get
will
it.
they will butcher it. So
Trust me, I get it.
yeah, because my dad's Mexican. A lot of people don't. My dad's Mexican. My mom was white. So
Nice.
um, yeah,
That's awesome, though. That's awesome. But we are here to discuss. He has an Indiegogo, people. Hollow Lake,
yay.
and we're here to kind of see what he can tell. See what he's allowed to discuss and just
There,
let out the bag without giving away too much, of course.
yeah, that's the thing about launching. And I was debating as far as to when to launch this Indiegogo because there's not a lot of there hasn't been really anything for this specific project filmed yet in terms
Hmm.
to like showcase any promotional materials. And I know now Indiegogos are so competitive. As you know, you can pull up Indiegogo at any time, and there's dozens of films. And in fact, I have several filmmaker friends right now that are also running Indiegogos. It just you're never going to escape that, right? Because
Hmm.
unfortunately, as an indie filmmaker, crowdfunding is sort of one of the few funding sources that we have to get these films done. I think a lot of people think, oh, he's made 3 films. I've seen Mrs. Claus at Walmart or in Family Video. He must have raked thousands of dollars off of those. Why is he doing an Indiegogo? I have not. I guarantee you, I have not. You talk to any filmmaker who has a similar situation as I am, and we're not making much money off of these films at all. It really boils down to, I think, for a lot of us, it's passion. You
Hmm.
know, I'm a horror fan through and through. I've been a horror fan since I was a kid. I love writing. I've written all of my screenplays, so I just have a passion for storytelling and for sharing my vision of horror with audiences. So, um, with that said, I think I was because I know now, like I said, Indiegogos are competitive, so you have a lot of these Indiegogos that are really like filming promotional trailers and this and that to throw it up to get people enticed. And I did not do that with this film just because, it's one of those, unfortunately, it's one of those like plots that I really, really want to try to keep, as
Hmm.
I don't want to say secretive, but as under wraps as possible. I want people to be surprised by it, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of why I haven't really exposed a lot of like major plot details and whatnot of the film because it is way different than any of my previous 3 films.
Can you let's see. We know it's gonna be horror, people.
Mhm.
As far as subgenre, slasher, paranormal, or is that
Oh, it's
something you kind of want to keep under wraps too?
no, it's definitely no. I mean, it's definitely a slasher film.
Okay.
There are some very brutal death scenes in this film. If I can execute them the way they are in my mind on screen, I think it'll really get a lot of people talking. And it's kind of a hybrid, like a hybrid home invasion film paired with a traditional slasher.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Okay.
It's the juxt of the film is a couple that goes to their lake house for a weekend and decide finally to pursue sort of an illicit encounter that one of the guys has been pressuring his partner into doing. In hopes that it'll spark their relationship. We've all heard that, right? Whether you're in a
Hmm.
gay relationship, straight relationship, it's always, oh, well, maybe if we bring in this third person, it'll give us the spark we need. Well, they decide to pursue that at this weekend retreat at their lake house, and it backfires horrifically.
Uh, that's
So,
yeah. That's a
yeah.
different kind of spice than what they were expecting and hoping for.
Well, it's one of those things like when it's you have to we live in an age of apps, social media.
Yeah.
Back in the before all that, you actually had to like go out to like maybe a bar to meet somebody, or actually,
Mhm.
there were local hangout spots that you could meet somebody if you were looking for whatever type of encounter you were looking for,
Yeah.
right? Now, with technology, we have all of these outlets at our fingertips where we can just open up a dating app or a hookup app and within seconds find somebody that might be interested in hooking up with you. But the problem is you never know who you're inviting
Yeah, who
into
you're
your
getting.
life, and there's been
Yeah.
real stories of people meeting people on hookup apps that have been brutally murdered. Unfortunately, it's not
Yeah.
funny, but I mean, it's
No,
just
no,
one of
that's
those.
what you mean.
It's a cautionary tale, really, at the end of it.
There you go. That works. That works.
Yeah.
That's gonna be something though. That's gonna be because I feel like there's gonna be more to it than that. That's just like you said. You don't want to get too deep into it, given the surface of it. And I'm like, I know there's gonna be more to it
Oh
than
yeah,
that.
there
I
is.
can't
There
wait
is.
to see.
There is. My first two films, Party Night and Mrs. Claus, were pretty straightforward slasher films.
Mhm.
And I kind of compare, if I had to compare Hollow Lake to any of the films, it would be Party Night, because Party Night was a very small cast, very small cast of characters, one location. Hollow Lake kind of goes back to the basics of that. Um, I like simplicity, but also just like budgetary concerns. When you
Mhm.
start, the more locations you add, the more characters you add, the higher the budget starts to go. I learned that the hard way with like Mrs. Claus and teacher shortage. But so I wanted to scale it back. Personally, I also like films that give us the opportunity to get to know the characters, if that makes sense. And when
Yeah.
you have such a small cast of characters that you're following, I think the audience can form bonds with the characters a lot better than if you're just having uh, characters thrown in for fodder for the killer to kill without even getting to know who they are. So I kind
Yeah.
of that in my mind was really important with this film as well.
Nice. Nice. What got you started into the whole like, as far as writing? Like, what is it? Something that as far just something you enjoyed as a kid writing, or is it something more so in adulthood? And I'm because like I think of I'm just going real quick. Like I think of for me like English class for example, right? You know, they have you writing stories or adding on to a story or whatever. I was always good at that. My issue was like I remember I don't remember the paper. I remember the English class, but I remember the grade was the C, right? And the teacher wrote, Aaron, this was 3 weeks late. Had you turned this in on time, it would have been an A. This is a great paper. I'm just like, in my back of my mind, I'm like, oh, at least I did it.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but but so for you, did it start as like a kid, or was it something you just kind of fell into more in adulthood, or?
No, I think it was, my first real memory of like having a positive experience with writing was in third grade when our teacher, Mrs. Kale, I still remember her, assigned us like this little homework, or it wasn't even like it was a Halloween story. Like
Mhm.
she gave us one sentence. It was something like, the house was dark and scary, something like that. It was just one sentence, and the assignment was then to finish it in a like finish the story in like a paragraph, right? And
Yeah.
most of the other kids in the class wrote like two or three sentences after that. I ended up writing, and this is, I swear to God, I was in third grade. I ended up writing 8 pages.
Damn.
Yeah, and turned it into her. And I think that moment, she was super like impressed, and I didn't really know it. I just had a story in my mind, and I kept going with it. So, and she really encouraged me. That she was like, she then the next year recommended me to go to like this young writers workshop. Only like a handful of students in the entire school district that I was at got to go to this. And you had all of these like young adult authors there that were doing sessions with us. So luckily I was encouraged at an early age to pursue writing. And I'm also, I don't know if how many people know this, but I'm also an English teacher. I spent 10 years
Oh,
as a high school English teacher, teaching. I mean, I've taught ninth grade, I've taught 11th grade, I've taught creative writing, journalism. So I definitely have a strong background in writing, and there for a while, I thought, oh, I'm going to be the next Stephen King. And I was like working on short stories and stuff. But you know what? I found out real quick that the screenwriting format suits my writing style a lot better than like straight narrative
Okay.
prose.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, so I spent like a year like researching and reading all of like the screenwriter's Bible and all that stuff so that I could understand like the proper formats of screenplays and like the basics of what makes a screenplay good in terms of structure and
Yeah.
all that. So yeah, so I just found out I just figured that format suited my writing style better.
That's cool though. That's cool, and it's really cool. Like you're saying earlier, how your teacher was just like, "This is awesome. You
Mhm.
should keep doing this." And then here's other avenues to help not only encourage you to keep writing, but also get you a better make you a better writer. Sorry, make
Yeah,
teach
yeah.
you the skills to be a better writer. And that's really cool that she just kind of picked up on that and encouraged you. And then I guess for you at that age to realize like, hey, I'm actually pretty good at this, and I'm assuming you kind of liked it.
Feel
And
like
I'm only saying that because you wrote all that long ass story.
no, yeah, and I wrote yeah, like when I was in junior high too, I wrote I had a spiral notebook and ended up writing like a 120 handwritten like 120 page story about a and the sequel uh about a like a haunted house, like an annual JC's haunted house that was actually set in a real haunted house. So all of the haunted house workers that year started to be like killed off and possessed by the and I was like I said, I was like in sixth grade and I was writing all this stuff. So, but luckily, yes, I had very supportive teachers, very supportive parents.
That's
I
good too.
I read a lot as a kid too. I was kind of that nerd that would go to the public library and spend my Saturday in the public library browsing like the horror section. That's when I got into like true crime as well. My other
Mm,
passion is true crime, and so yeah, I was luckily I like I said I was encouraged. I was allowed to do that stuff. So
yeah, and I mean, it's not even hard to see like horror, true crime, because horror, you get the movies, the shows, we get the content stuff from, we get the fun stuff, and then true crime, that's like the real life horror. This is like, no, this is a horror in real life. This is not Jason in a hockey mask.
no, well,
This is
you know
some crazy guy named Jason in a hockey mask, like
exactly. And
a real situation. Which I'm not laughing at the real situation. I'm just saying like how that craziness is with people.
well, they always say fact is stranger than fiction, and it's so interesting that some of the most popular horror villains that we have, Leatherface, Norman
Mhm.
Bates, were based off of real life true crime
Yeah,
cases, like Ed Gein and all that stuff. So true crime, I think true crime and horror, yeah, definitely go hand in hand together. And like I said, when I was writing Hollow Lake, when I was writing the script, which was about 3 years ago now, when I started the script, there was as I was writing it, there was this story in the news that broke about a kid in Michigan that went missing on like Christmas Eve, and they tracked his phone and discovered that he was like had met up with some guy on Grinder, that gay dating app, and this guy like murdered this kid and had him like hanging in his basement upside down. He like drained his blood. Yeah, it's real. So like I was like, how interesting that this makes national news just as I'm writing a story that or a script that sort of has the same vibes to it.
as far as the meat, yeah, and
Yeah,
that's
it's
easy.
great.
And how long does it take you to write usually when you're writing a script? Like if you have I guess for a Hollow Lake, I know you said it's been 3 years, but how long if you have no distract? Like I don't know how that works. If you have no distraction, or you have a chance to just like write.
Ooh, that's a good question. It's sometime it really depends. Like I don't even know how long it took to write. Maybe like 2 months. And
Okay.
that was like taking breaks from it because I like to take I feel like it's really important to step away from what you've written for at least a few days, if
Hmm.
not more, and then go back to it and read it to see if, you know, it
So, yeah.
still is effective as you thought it was when you wrote it. So I would say maybe 2 months. Um,
Okay.
like the Mrs. Claus script took forever, or Mrs. Claus 2 script, Stirring, aka Mrs. Claus 2, took forever because writing a sequel, um, that you want it to like pay a really good homage to the original and have tie-ins to the original. So having to
Mhm.
constantly go back and check things in the original script to make sure that if they were being mentioned in the sequel, that it actually happened that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that took a while, but
Like,
Hollow Lake maybe 2 months. But and
yeah,
I had every intention of filming Hollow Lake like 2 years ago after the script was done and I went through the revision process. Unfortunately, that was 2020,
yep.
and we all know what happened then. So everything
Mhm.
got kind of delayed and pushed back. So
Yeah, yeah. Maybe for the better though. I mean, as far as maybe you came up with a few more ideas, kind of clean a few things up to where it's like, okay, now.
yeah, possibly. I've assembled a really great cast for this film as well that I'm super excited about. That probably would not have happened, 2 years ago. I'm not saying I wouldn't have got a good cast 2 years ago, but
But
this
there's
cast,
just
yeah,
exact.
this cast that I have secured currently, I think is definitely the right fit for this film and what I'm going for. Um, so I'm really excited about that.
Now, you said you started writing on third grade. You were obviously into horror when you were in the third grade.
Yeah,
So my next question is, who got you into horror? And then what's the first movie you remember that scared you?
great question. My parents got me into horror. The very first film I ever saw in the movie theater, and it was my parents that took me and my brother. And I think it was for his birthday. It was for his birthday. And I was probably like what, 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. It was Poltergeist, the original Poltergeist.
Oh wow. Wasn't
Yeah,
that rated PG too?
it was rated. Yeah, it had no business being rated PG.
Absolutely not.
There's
But
some horrifying shit in that. I will tell you that face ripping scene, that was terrifying as a kid. Uh, I was I almost shit my pants in the theater as a little kid, but you know what? I left the theater and I fucking loved it.
mhm.
The adrenaline rush of being scared, and I loved it, and I wanted to go back. Like I remember begging my mom and dad to take me to go see Poltergeist again. Luckily, my parents both were horror fans. Like my,
Okay.
I think the very first, like the film my mom and dad saw like on their first date was like Dawn of the Dead or something like that. I think they
Oh, that's
remember too.
awesome.
So, I remember like they
That's
took us
awesome.
they took us to the drive-in to see like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 and all this stuff. But I grew up primarily like late 80s, early 90s in the VHS days of like the mom
Mhm.
and pop VHS video stores. And I see like your background, you have all of the VHS tapes on
Yep.
the shelf. That was my childhood. That was my
Same here,
child.
man.
Yes.
Same here.
My mom would, we'd go to the video rental store every weekend. My mom would let me and my brother pick out a movie. And every time our little asses went straight to the horror section and we looked at the covers, and that's how you chose a film.
Mhm.
Which of these films has the most graphic or,
Yes.
gross
Yes.
cover? And, I see like Blood Lake on yours. That was one. I mean, that's such a piece of shit, but like
I
the,
hate.
the cover of it is like, as a kid,
Can
you're
we
intrigued.
can we talk about that for a minute?
I
Because my show has a running joke about that movie on here. Like, I
no,
legit want to. I hate that movie so much. Like, I changed the rating scale on this podcast, Horror with Sir Sturdy, and on the one I co-host with some friends on Popcorn and Pints. It used to be from 0 to 10, like most people are, or 1 to 10. Well, 0 to 10.
yeah,
Because of that movie, it's from my rating, my personal rating for anytime I rate movies is from a -10 to a +10 because that shit was so bad.
it is. It's really funny. I literally, I swear to God, I just watched that film Friday night on Tubi because
Oh my goodness.
there's a podcast I listen to, Neon Brainiacs, and their latest episode, they covered it, and I was listening to it, and I was laughing my ass off at their episode, and I was like, in my mind, I was like, you know what, is it really that bad? Because I hadn't
Yes.
seen it since I was a kid. And I think as a kid, you have a higher tolerance for maybe stupidity,
Mhm.
as you do as an adult. So I put it on, and I was watching it Friday, and I'm like, oh my fucking God, how did this ever get a distribution deal? I don't know.
Anything. And I just love that of all the movie cases, you pointed out Blood
Yeah,
Lake. Like, this was supposed to happen.
yeah.
But no, like, I really want, and I'm gonna keep putting this out there. I want to own the rights to that movie. I want to own why? I have no like, I feel in my mind, in a weird way, like, I feel like it's almost like a badge of honor in a way to own the worst movie you've ever seen in your life, to own the right to the worst movie you've ever seen in your life. And if I can get that, I'll figure it out. It's going on YouTube. It's going everywhere you can stream for free, so people can just watch it. I'm like, listen, before you come out horror with Sir Sturdy, check this movie out. For all you people that say you've seen the worst movie in the world, no, check this movie out. For all you filmmakers that think you can't make it, check this movie out. Like, watch this.
I don't even know if there were filmmakers behind that movie, but I don't know. It's that's the thing is, you know, horror and then social media has made everyone a critic. I have to just bite my tongue so many times on like Facebook if I'm scrolling through. I belong to like some horror movie groups and stuff,
Same.
and it's so toxic. Every other day somebody's asking like what the worst movie you've ever seen is, and you will see people literally say things like Hereditary, Get Out. I'm like, how the fuck is that the worst movie you've ever seen? Trust me, I could show you some shit.
See, a lot of people don't. I'm not gonna say all, but there's a lot of people they don't. I mean, if you want to use like an old school term, dig in the crates. Like you're not going to Walmart. And you don't remember the big, the big things that Walmart has on big barrels of movies. You're not going into Walmart basically and just digging to the bottom that movie they put in there when Walmart first opened. And grabbing that horror movie out and saying, you know what, this movie costs $2. I'm bringing this shit home and I'm watching it. And I'm not only am I watching it, I'm gonna watch no matter how bad it is. Blood Lake. I'm gonna watch the whole thing. No, I don't own the DVD of Blood Lake. I watch it on Tubi just like he did. But what I'm saying is it's like for people that say like, oh, this is the worst movie. I'm like, you've never seen, like, you can't just watch no, let me rephrase that because I don't want to sound like a gatekeeper. But to say it's the worst movie ever, I'm like, you have to watch lower budget films.
Yeah.
And you can't just, I mean, if you're gonna go, if you want to go that route of stuff, like you have to watch lower budget films. I'm never gonna say you're not a fan of something because you don't watch every single thing because that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But when it's like best or worst, I'm like, you got to open your horizon. And even with lower budget films, as far as like a really good films, like, hey, this is one of the better ones. Yeah, you should still check out some of these lower budget ones because a lot of them, like, they have to tell a good story for you to be interested or try to tell a good story. Hollywood just has to make it look pretty.
Yeah, no, and I have a high tolerance for, I have a higher tolerance for films maybe than a lot of other people do. Mainly because I grew up in the 80s and I remember just
same here.
picking films off based on their cover art. And
that's something I miss. I mean, I do it here and there, and there's a lot of misses with that logic, but it's still fun. Like, and I miss that as far as like you don't really here and there you get it, but it's usually like the second or third edition of when this movie comes out on Blu-ray or 4K. Then they're like, okay, well, let's put a cool cover on it. But when the movie first comes out on Blu-ray, it's just a generic cover, and it's kind of boring. I miss the VHS days where like, look, we want to stand out. We want to stand the fuck out with this movie cover. No matter how good or how bad the movie is, we want to stand out with this movie cover. So when people are going to buy these movies or going to rent these movies, they're going to grab our movie. And nowadays, they're just like, well, I mean, it's on streaming anyway, so just throw this generic cover on here and sell it at Walmart. I'm like, no, do more than that.
No, they had, here, like, even on Tubi, it's almost, you can scroll through Tubi and see tons of like cover arts that of films I've never heard of, but you also have the convenience of being able to play a trailer right then and there.
Yeah.
You were in a video store in the 80s. You could not do that. You were solely making your decision based off of the film's cover art.
Exactly.
And like some of my most memorable, like, films that I absolutely love to death today that I know aren't great. Like I'm a big 80s slashers are my thing.
Yes.
All of my films are definitely throwbacks to 80s slasher films. Like, I love films like The Mutilator. I fucking love that movie. I know it's, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, Sleepaway Camp, of course. All of these 80s slashers that sold me solely on cover art, but then also just, I don't know, did
you
something
had fun with the films.
Yeah.
You had fun with the film. On top of that. And I mean, yeah, like you said, they weren't the best films in the world. Of course, they're not the greatest stories, but they were entertaining. And you still watch those films to this day. Like, I still watch those films to this day. And I mean, you make movies and your films are kind of based off of what you loved as a kid. And I get that. I respect that. I understand it. I mean, my podcast is based off of horror, what I loved as a kid. As I loved as a kid. It's just like, it sticks with you. It definitely sticks with you.
It does.
In one way or another. And then you're just like, oh man, that reminds me of Friday the 13th. Or, oh man, that reminds me of Sleepaway Camp, like you said, or just this. And when you have those, like, it's like, okay, you know what? This movie came out in 1986. Now let me check out something else that came out in this year, these slashes this year. And the ones that when certain ones come out, like say the popular Friday the 13th, so there'll be a copy version, like and you're just like, all right, this movie is just not good at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
it's bad. Like I'm gonna finish it. I know again, Friday the 13th is my favorite franchise of just like every movie ever, just because of the nostalgia of it. You love it. It's what I think it's something that I don't know if it's what necessarily got me into horror. If it's the first horror movie I've seen, I kind of doubt it. But it's something that definitely kept me there from my childhood on up because Friday the 13th, USA Network.
Yeah.
They were showing that all week, not just all day, all weekend. So it's like, and of course they cut out, the blood, guts, and boobs. So your parents aren't gonna get mad. Well, for me, my parents they didn't care if I watched horror too much. My father didn't care. My mother would. But that right there, like it's all edited anyway. So
Yeah.
go ahead and knock yourself out. Watch it, watch it, watch it. And I feel like that's probably why it's my favorite of everything because you get to watch. I got to watch it so freaking much to where like, especially with the first 8, and I just did a review on them. We actually did Freddy versus Jason. We went franchise versus franchise, but we watched one movie versus one movie per episode. And like doing it that way, I mean, I'd like the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, but I don't know it as well as I know the Jason one. And it's to the point where it's like I really do really know these movies, not necessarily word for word, but kind of like scenes. Like I could be doing something in the other room and just hear the movie going and be like, I remember this part. Oh, I
Yeah.
remember this part. Like
Oh, yeah.
I remember this part. And it's just I love it. I love it. Like I forget everything else, but I'll remember this part of the damn movie.
Yeah, no, Friday the 13th is a great I mean, yeah, I think us horror fans that grew up during that time definitely have a fondness for Friday the 13th. I love the franchise. I think it's probably, it definitely has some misses, but at
Oh, of
least
course.
at least it's like the franchise of the major ones that really tried to do a little bit things a little differently at some of the later entries. I mean, you had
Yeah.
telekinesis, you had space travel, you had all that shit.
Yep.
Um, it's not, at least it's not like Halloween that never has really done anything interesting. It just kind of keeps rehashing itself over and over. And
I
now
mean, they tried with part 3, but people didn't like it back then.
no, no, and now it's just become like kind of like this jumbled choose your own adventure type mess as far as where you want to go. But
Yeah.
I still have a fondness for Halloween.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
Friday the 13th. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely the franchise I would say that got me really into slasher films, especially.
Would you? Oh, here's a two-parter. Would you ever do a slasher or not a slasher film, a franchise yourself?
Like my own franchise, or like, are you talking about like?
That's a great. Okay, so now you
Because
add an extra layer. No,
well,
because
no,
you add an
because
extra layer to that, and I like that. So let's start with fan film first, and then I'll get to the other. Would you ever do a fan film? And if you would, who would it be? If you would, who would you?
okay. Um, I have to answer this question carefully because I have a lot of friends who have done fan films.
I know
Um,
where this is going.
to be honest with you, for me, I have seen some great fan films.
Yeah,
Okay. I have really seen some great fans. Some of my friends have made great fan films. Some of my friends have made fan films that rival some of the actual films in the real franchise. Um, for me personally, just because I know in my mind I have lots of different stories that I could tell. Like right now
yeah.
I have two other scripts outside of uh Hollow Lake and Mrs. Claus 2. To me, raising funds and getting money is a huge part of filmmaking. It's the hardest part of filmmaking. If I'm going to put time, energy, effort into raising funds,
Mhm.
I'm going to do it for my own original idea. Does that make sense? Uh,
Understandable.
because fan films are a really hairy situation because you're using someone else's intellectual property, so there's all kinds of legal issues that come
Yeah.
into play with fan films in terms of profiting off of it and where it can be shown and,
Mhm.
and whatnot. I feel like those stories are already there to be told. I'm going to use my resources. Crowdfunding is a bitch. It's a fucking bitch. I'm in the middle of it right now with Hollow Lake. It consumes your life. It's not easy. People think you just create an Indiegogo and throw it up there. A lot of filmmakers do, and that's why they never even come close to meeting their goal. But if you want to meet your goal, you are constantly coming up with different promotional things to post.
Mhm.
It's a time consuming effort, which in my mind, like, I don't want to put that time and energy into something that's really, at the end of the day, not necessarily
Not
my.
yours.
Yeah.
I respect that.
With that said, if I could, I mean, if I could do a fan film, um, if you're asking me that, like, what franchise would I choose?
Yeah, that's
Um, you know, I think it would, I would say, gun to my head right now, you have to do a fan film. Which franchise are you going to pick? I would say Sleepaway Camp, because
ooh,
there hasn't been a really good sleepaway camp film for a long time. And, they tried to, um, about a decade ago, they came out with Return to Sleepaway Camp,
yeah.
part 4, which brought like Felissa Rose back and stuff like that. But to me, you want to talk about a bad film. I don't know how that film turned out so terrible when it had the original director and writer behind it, but it was a mess. And I do think that the Sleepaway Camp franchise has some really interesting, albeit controversial themes that run through it, that I think in the hands of like the
Mhm.
right screenwriter, and I'm not even saying that's me. Trust me, I'm not like being, oh, I could, but I think in the hands of someone that could handle that commentary, that social commentary that is undoubtedly embedded in the Sleepaway franchise,
Yeah.
and bring it to modern day, where those issues are at the forefront of a lot of social issues that we're talking
Mhm.
about, right? You could really make it an interesting film that makes a statement about something, and I think it would be interesting to try. Now, if I wanted to just have balls out fun, I would love to make a fucking Scream fan film.
Ooh,
Scream to me is one of the most solid franchises out there. Um,
and I hate
and
those movies.
you,
I I cannot like, I'll
oh,
watch them though, don't get me wrong, I'll watch them, like, I just went and watched me and the wife went and watched, 6 when that came out, because anytime a horror movie comes out in theaters, as long
oh
as I
yeah,
got the fun, we're going. But I was just never, ever, ever, even when the first one came out, I was just never a fan of those movies. I just never liked I'll watch it, it's horror, I'm gonna
yeah.
watch it, and then I'm a completionist, like,
You watch
I
one.
I'm already talking about, like, I know part 7's coming out next year. I was already telling my friends, I was like, I'm gonna go through the whole before I watch 7, I'll go through and watch them all, because those are the type of movies I'll watch. Maybe I know I've seen part 1 and 2 multiple times. I don't know how many times, but it's something like when a new one comes out, I'll go through me and the wife will go through and just start from 1 and watch the whole franchise. We didn't do it for part 6, but gonna do it for part 7. But I just
That's that's
never
interesting.
liked them.
Yeah, that's
Never
it.
liked that
I
franchise.
it's one I think for me, it's one of the most solid franchises. The only Scream film I really don't necessarily like is 3. Um,
Mhm.
like I rewatched 4 recently because on my podcast we covered it, and I I
Nice.
I found a much greater appreciation for it. I loved 6. Um, the problem I have with the Scream franchise is a lot of the same things I hear is like they need to take risks with the characters. I know they killed off Dewey in part 5. Spoiler if you haven't seen it, whatever, it's been years.
Yeah.
Um, but I think they need to take bigger risks with the characters and whatnot. So I don't know. It would be fun. I had my friend, one of my acquaintances in Houston, Zach Salazar. He did a Scream fan film that is actually really, really good.
Okay.
Um,
Nice.
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know. I'd say Black Christmas is my favorite horror film of all time is Black Christmas. And I always thought that the original one, and I always
Yeah.
thought that deserved a proper sequel. But in fact, actually, about a year ago, a fan film came out called It's Me, Billy, that is a direct sequel to the original Black Christmas. It's actually really good.
Ooh, I'll have to
So
check that out.
I am not saying there aren't good fan films out there. There
Oh,
are.
no, it's just not for you as far as
Yeah, well,
creating one.
yeah, I guess if you like want to, if you're a new filmmaker and you want to like get your get something made that can get attention, then maybe that would be a good
Yeah.
outlet for you. But yeah,
That's
so that's
fair
my
though.
yeah, that's my
Alright,
idea.
and
That's
then it's what about an original franchise? Let's just say, just to make it easy, let's just say 4 or 5 movies, franchise slasher.
I am working on it.
Ooh,
I mean, I haven't, like I said, my film that I plan to do. Okay, let's say Hollow Lake reaches its Indiegogo goal. We're at 60%. We still have like 22 days left. I'm feeling pretty confident. Um, my next project is going to be something that I have been telling people I'm doing now for years and haven't done because I had an issue with the distributor, but it is Mrs. Claus 2. which will be a sequel to my 2018 film Mrs. Claus. My original title for the film was Stirring, but it got changed by the distributor, which has been part of the problem with trying to do a sequel. But that's a whole different conversation. Everything is squared away now. So Mrs. Claus 2 will bring back some of the characters from the original film
Okay.
and continue the story 2 years later after the events of the first film. There's a lot of really cool tie-ins to the first one. I feel like people that have seen the first one will really appreciate the tie-ins to the first one.
Mhm.
But it's also super unique in my mind. And I just posted this on my Facebook page because I saw somebody post this question and I'm like, fuck, I'm doing it. So
Mm.
shut your mouth. It was like, oh, has anybody ever thought to do a Christmas themed slasher but set it on Halloween? Well, that's Mrs. Claus 2. Um, that's been Mrs. Claus 2. Mrs. Claus 2, the poster art that I have for Mrs. Claus 2 that I've had now for about 3 years. If you look it up, you'll see it's it takes the Mrs. Claus 2 takes place on Halloween.
Mhm.
But it's the killer Mrs. Claus from the first, well, not the same killer, but the killer in the Mrs. Claus disguise, who has, come back on Halloween to finish some business with the survivor of the first film. And, it takes place in the same little college town. So like anything, all of the college kids think it's really cool that their college and their town has now become associated with a Mrs. Claus killer. So like the really cool costume of the moment in this little college town is the Mrs. Claus costume. So you have sort of like Scream 6 or Scream 4, you have a scenario where at any given time there's tons of people dressed in the Mrs. Claus costume. So who is really so Mrs. Claus,
Mhm.
the real killer, has the ability to kind of weave in and out and commit these horrific murders without really being caught. Now it does towards the end of the film. And see, this is the first time anybody's really hearing about the plot, but like um, towards the end of the film, the setting gets confined to a specific house, like a farmhouse where a frat parties got moved to,
Nice.
so that Mrs. Claus then can wreak havoc on the primary characters that are in part two. We have a cast of colorful characters. You get the killer reveal. I really, 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 really wanted to try to top the twist in Mrs. Claus, the original Mrs. Claus.
Mhm.
So that took a lot of thought and effort to try to do, because I know a lot of people were really caught off guard with the twist in Mrs. Claus, which was kind of cool that nobody really guessed the twist. So I tried to top that in the sequel. So it's a lot of fun. Like, to me, I will be honest with you guys, Mrs. Claus 2 is probably my favorite script that I've written.
Ooh.
Yeah, by
Ooh.
far, by far, by far.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
That's all, and I love that you said that because I like asking people like, "What's your favorite movie you've done so far?" And some will respond, some will give it's like choosing your favorite child, which some parents have no problem doing. But I like how you said that because it just shows like you have a favor. You have maybe there was one story or something. You're like, I have this story. I want to get it down. For whatever reason, I couldn't get it out. Which for you, the distributing crap, and
I
now you
mean,
got that
yeah,
figured
well,
out.
yeah, I mean, if you ask me what my favorite film that actually is done is, I would have to say it's tough. I go between Mrs. Claus and Teacher Shortage. I think Mrs. Claus is tons of fun. Like I said, my favorite horror film of all time is Black Christmas. I
Yeah,
I love Christmas themed horror films. I love them. I've seen some terrible ones, but for the most part,
same here.
I love Christmas themed horror films. Like, I'm glad like the new Terrifier 3 has been revealed as a Christmas themed slasher, because that's going to be awesome. So,
Yeah.
Mrs. Claus, I like I have fun with that film. I have a lot of fond memories of making that film, which I think maybe clouds some of the negative issues that the film itself has. But on the flip side, then I think Teacher Shortage of my films is probably the most mature, if that makes sense.
Okay.
It's the one that really has an underlying message to it that the other two don't, because I've been in public education now for 18 years. So Teacher Shortage, while it's a slasher film at heart, it also makes a statement about the state of public education.
Mhm.
And it's kind of one of the few films I've ever seen, if not the only film I've ever seen, where a killer is actually targeting teachers and not students,
That's interesting.
but for a specific reason that's revealed at the end, with kind of like the classic killer reveal. I love a good Scream-esque, urban
Mhm.
legend-esque killer reveal. I love it. A killer
Yep.
revealing the so Mrs. Claus has it, Teacher Shortage has it, Mrs. Claus 2 has it, Hollow Lake will have it. I love it. Love it.
Speaking of Mrs. Claus too, really quick, because you did say there's a poster out there.
Uh-huh.
I found one. I'm just
Yes.
gonna ask you if this is the one right here.
Yeah, see? It's a Halloween theme.
Carved
That is
more
it.
than pumpkins. That's awesome.
Yeah, the artist, Casey Booth, created that artwork for me about God, it's been a while. It's been about 2 years ago now. He's a great artist. He's done a lot of our posters for the Houston Horror Film Festival.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's real cool. And I guess while I have the screen sharing going on, pull up the Indiegogo for you guys to go check out.
Yes, we are at we're almost at 60%. We have 23 days left. There'll be some cool things announced on the Indiegogo. You can scroll down and see the cast, read more about the project. Yeah.
Perks.
The perks. I like to keep the perks simple. But yeah. So I was surprised at how well the Indiegogo did when it first was launched. We hit 40% like within the first day.
That's really good.
Yeah, and now we're just kind of in that mid campaign slump. It's really hard to get people motivated to pledge to a project when they look at it and see, oh, well, they still have, however many days left. I'll just get to it another time. But like,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, because most of the funds for our crowdfunding campaign are raised like within the first 48 hours and like the last 48 hours. I think something like
Okay.
60% of the funds you'll raise come during that period. But I don't know. There are some people that are doing amazing things with crowdfunding and they can throw up a crowdfunding campaign and have it funded like within 3 days. I need to know their secrets. Luckily, I mean, all three of my previous films were crowdfunded and they were all successful.
That's good.
So it's just kind of a pain.
That's good though. But I mean, the thing is too with you have proof that you've done work. You got three movies out right now, and you got the crowdfunding for this one going. Which
Yeah, that's the thing. Crowdfunding is interesting because I do, I have tons of friends on Facebook. Not, I mean, I've been on there forever. It's just you know that you accumulate all
yeah,
these people that add you.
yep.
And it's just interesting to see like what types of films like meet their goal quickly, what types of films don't. And I think I always say, with my films with crowdfunding, you'll know that I'm going to get my films done. I have the history of getting my films done, and
Mm-hmm.
B, that you'll get your perks. Personally, I know I've contributed to several crowdfunding campaigns where I still have not ever received a perk, or the film has just never gotten made, and it's been like
Yeah,
4 or 5 years.
I've had backed a couple, and now I'm a little more cautious. I'm like, all right, let me see if this person actually completed a film before
Well,
or not.
and that's
And
I think that's another thing that makes crowdfunding difficult for filmmakers is that I haven't done a crowdfunding campaign for 5 years now. Teacher Shortage was my last one. So it's been a while. I've been away a while, and I know the crowdfunding landscape has changed
mhm,
tremendously, and it's much harder to get just, I don't want to say random people, but just people that you're not really associated with to want to pledge
yeah,
to your film. Um, there are filmmakers that have built a strong base that will support their films because they know they're going to get done. They know they're going to get their
mhm.
perks. Unfortunately, so many people have been burned by crowdfunding and people that have not made a movie or fulfilled the perks that it is become a little bit more challenging.
That's understand. There's that, and then there's now, which I'm gonna say this out here, people. And I'm glad you don't do this. I love what you did, like where you just make a post like, "Hey, is there any podcasts out there that'll have me on for interviews?" This, that, and the third. I hate when people will inbox, and also inbox is their crowdfund, and then that's it. If you do that, I'm not supporting your movie. And now what I'm gonna start doing is telling all my friends, like, listen, this person right here, all they're doing is just dropping something in the inbox, and because I don't like that. I don't like where you just. It's one thing if you're having a conversation, if you have that repertoire with somebody, like, hey, by the way, we were talking about this. My Indiegogo's coming out. Couldn't you check it out? Maybe share it, but to just drop it in, or like when someone will add you and then they'll just drop it in and then that's it. I'm no.
I guess I just try to be respectful.
Yeah.
I even like, and it's one of those things that some people have the mentality is, hey, I'm trying to make a film. I got to do whatever I can to get that done. Well, yeah, but
there's better ways of doing it.
There is
like,
better
hey,
ways
like,
of doing it.
the way you're doing it. Hey, any podcasters out there that would do it and just
I don't.
reaching out to friends and
I even feel bad. Like I feel terrible, like using like the at everyone. You have a group and you do that at everyone. I hate that, guys. I hate it. But I have a group for Hollow Lake and I've done it twice, and I always apologize. But I feel like it's Facebook. So Facebook has suppressed.
A lot
tremendously. So I know that my view on certain things, my views are people that are seeing the posts aren't.
That's different though. And I say that's different. One, you're not going into the person's quote unquote personal space, I guess you would say on Facebook, which is their inbox and like, here's my movie. That's you basically like, yo, here's my hangout spot on Facebook in my horror group. And I'm going to add you guys here. I'm going to tag you guys on this because you guys came to this group. So I don't care about that. That's more understandable. That I get. That I understand. That I respect because that's you made the group to get the attention. You made the group or the specific people to get the attention.
People get so bent out of shape about that. Add everything tag. Add everyone tag, and I get it. But you know what? I guess I'm to the point where I can scroll past. Like I see it pop up in my notifications. Like okay, whatever. I scroll. I don't get bent out of shape. I don't leave the group because I realize that Facebook has suppressed. Or does suppress so many posts. Like if you make a post, like if you notice, and I think all indie filmmakers have caught on to this that do crowdfunding campaigns because they all do it now. But if you're trying to do a crowdfunding campaign, here's just a slight little tidbit of info for you. If you just post, like if you create a post and post the link to the Indiegogo page in it and just post that, the amount of views you get are severely limited. Like, I don't care if you have 5,000 friends. Out of those 5,000 friends, probably 3 of them are going to see it if you post just the link to the Indiegogo. What you see a lot of filmmakers do, like what I have been doing, is you have to create an image, and then in the post, describe what it is. And then in the comments, post the link to the Indiegogo. More people will see. For some reason, Facebook suppresses any posts that have like a crowdfunding campaign link or anything.
You know what it is? I think all the social media, if it's not their direct link, like, hey, come to check out my Facebook group, it's like, oh, you're telling them to go from Facebook to somewhere else.
Yeah, they
not only to go somewhere else, but to spend money. Oh, no, fuck that.
Yeah, you got to get creative, and that's the thing is like nowadays.
But at the same time, they'll flood your feed with a bunch of stupid ass ads you give no shits about, don't even pay attention to, and it's no thank you, Facebook.
Well, how creepy is that too? Like you're Googling something and then you go on Facebook and all of a sudden you see ads for everything you were Google. Yeah. Like I don't know. I know this is stupid. I just bought a house. I just moved it. So I was looking like yesterday or something. I was looking at artificial Christmas trees, whatever. And then I get on Facebook this morning and literally every ad is for artificial. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, mind your business, Facebook. Stop putting these ads up and spread my movie around.
right. So I mean, that's the thing is, I know it probably annoys people that you constantly post your crowdfunding campaign, but you got to do what you got to do.
Again, that's different. I feel like that's to be expected. Like you posting it on the pages, you're even going in certain groups where it's like, hey, am I allowed to do this? Blah 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 blah. Cool. And then to me, like it's the inboxing. I hate that shit because it's literally, and I've seen so many people make posts about it this past week, actually, some friends and all that. Like, I'm not going to support your movie if you just add me as a friend or if you just randomly message me. We've never had a conversation before. You drop your Indiegogo and then that's it.
Yeah, I get that. I've gotten that quite a bit.
And it's just,
it's just as annoying as, it's like, but okay. It's just as annoying maybe as somebody that you've never had a conversation with, or who's never liked any of your posts or anything, but then all of a sudden sees that you're making a movie and then inboxes you about, oh, can I be cast in your movie or
Yeah,
whatever, or
exactly.
hey,
That
can I do?
doesn't.
I'm like, there's proper ways to go about that, like,
Yes.
um, so yeah, I mean, I get it.
Mhm.
People are trying to get work or trying to get themselves out there. I totally get
And
it.
I get it. I get it as far as like trying to get the eyes, the shares, the finances, whatever it is for whatever you're trying to do. But there's better ways of going about it. There's
Yeah.
better ways of going about it.
So
Shooting in people's inboxes doesn't work and all that other dumb. It's like just make a post about it, make a page about it, invite some friends, have your friends invite some friends, and kind of go from there and spread the word. And if people are interested, they'll check it out.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I don't think any filmmaker would ever lie to you and tell you they love crowdfunding. I don't think any filmmaker loves crowdfunding. Um, I look at it as just as a way for, I mean, the film's, if it makes its goal, it's going to get made. So you have the
Yeah.
opportunity to get some. Basically, it's like pre-ordering. You're pre-ordering the Blu-ray. That's how I phrase it in my post. Hey, pre-order the Blu-ray, pre-order the DVD, because it
Mhm.
does make it sound like, yes, it is getting made. This is your opportunity to pre-order it before anybody else gets to the film. But I don't know. Hopefully Hollow Lake reaches its goal. Like I said, there's 23 days left.
23 days left. Yep.
60%. I feel pretty confident. I'll post my last casting notice tomorrow, so I can drop something fresh for people.
There
So
you
that'll
go.
be like I said, this is a small cast. There's only like five principal characters in the film, which is
Okay.
small. But
Yeah.
don't let that fool you, because trust me, the brutality that this film inflicts on some of these people is unlike, and I hate is unlike anything you probably have seen. Like, there's one particular death scene in Hollow Lake that I have never seen done in a film.
Ooh. Ooh.
Um, I'm not exaggerating. Like, every actor that has read this script, that has,
Right.
that has auditioned, and I've posted some of their responses right on my Facebook. They're like, "Damn, this is brutal. This is going to get people talking. Like, this is some severe shit." So with this film, I guess I just kind of wanted to push some boundaries and get a conversation started
Mhm.
about
I like
certain
that.
things that go on, and certain things that are excused because of whatever. So
Yeah.
if it sounds like, I mean, if you like your films brutal, this is, like I said, there's one specific death scene that I've never seen done.
There you go. That sells it right there.
And trust me, guys, I have seen lots of films. I have seen thousands. I mean, and I've never seen it done.
Ooh, it's intriguing. It's
It is.
intriguing, guys. It's
Yeah.
intriguing. We got to check this out. We got to check to get that thing back. Share the links, which I do, because we're gonna wrap this up soon. But I do have the link in the description. I just dropped
Oh
the
yeah.
link in the comments and posted it or started, so it'll be at the top of the comments and all that.
Cool.
But yeah, man, this was fun.
No,
And
definitely have to come
oh
on
my,
sometime and just chat horror in general,
oh
because
shit!
yeah.
So Tuesdays and Thursdays we do some reviews. So I'll have to have you on to review some movies with us sometime.
Oh yeah,
Sometime.
absolutely. That's what my pod. I have a podcast, Dark Night of the Podcast, that I host with my friend. He actually was in Teacher Shortage. He's going to be in Hollow Lake, Roger Connors, and
Nice.
we were like 118 episodes into this podcast. We started it during COVID, which seems to be when a lot of podcasts started. I think a lot of people had a free time on their hands. They're like, "Hey,
Oh
let's start a podcast." But we survived. We're still going strong. 118 episodes. And we basically choose one film, and just have a long, deep conversation about
yeah.
it. Our last episode was Halloween 2, the original Halloween 2. So I love deep diving into films. So yeah, anytime, I would love to come
Oh
on.
yeah. Oh, it's a fun freaking time. And yeah, the last episode we did over here on Horror with Sir Sturdy was actually, it was wrapping up the Freddy vs. Jason thing. So we did all those. So we did 8, 9, and 10 of Nightmare, or not Nightmare, of Friday the 13th.
Okay.
The bottom three in my in my opinion. But
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
still
I mean,
love them.
You still
You
love
still
them. You
love them,
still
but
love them, but
it's just
they're
like yeah, it's like when you have like that favorite cousin and all that. It's like you invite or your least favorite cousin. Like those, they come over like once in a while because they act up too much. My mom don't want them here all the time.
yeah, but you'll watch it. You'll watch them if they're
Yeah,
on.
of
I'm
course,
not gonna
of
change the
course.
channel if it pops on. But yeah, yeah. I actually
But they're
like yeah. I
I don't
actually
hate those films at all. I like them. I don't love them all. I don't love those three. I like them.
the only one I really find that I really have a hard time getting into, and God, I've tried, and I've watched it, I've seen it, but I really just have a hard time. Is Jason Goes to Hell?
Same here.
It's just for some reason it just doesn't capture my attention. I have a hard
And
time.
and, and I mean, you would think because it's like, okay, he didn't. They didn't do anything ridiculous like to put him into space. Put him in space. You would think that the space one would be the one that's like,
But that's
oh man,
it's
but it's fun.
it's
It's
entertaining as
so fun.
hell. Freddy versus Jason, I think, or not Freddy. Jason Goes to Hell suffers from the fact that it's just not it's not a fun movie. Like it's just
Yeah,
there was always a sense of fun tongue in cheekness that ran through that franchise, and it's just not there in Freddy versus or Jason Goes to Hell. So
yeah,
it makes it a tough watch. It takes itself way too seriously.
yeah. And he has
But
a sister out of nowhere and shit. Just
yeah,
it was too much. It was too much.
but yeah. But sure, but yeah, guys. So yeah, check out Hollow Lake. Hopefully, like I
Like,
said, fingers crossed, it'll get done. We have a great cast. Like I said, I'm thrilled with the cast. So it is the plan is just so you have an idea. If you do decide to support the film, like when it'll be done, the plan is to film this June in the
2024.
Cleveland. Yeah, see, I'm a teacher, so I still am a teacher, so it makes sense for me. I have the summers off,
There
so
you go.
that's if I'm ever going to make a movie, it's going to be June or July. All three of my films were filmed in June or July because I'm off, so I have all the time to do it. So, and I don't like to. I'm not the type of person that likes to film over like. I know people that have done it and it works brilliantly for them. Where like they film a film over the course of a year, like every weekend.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like the Death Drop Gorgeous guys did that, and Brandon Paris is going to be in Hollow Lake, which is I'm thrilled. He's a great filmmaker. He did Death Drop Gorgeous, and Saint Drogo. But like for me, I would lose my mind. Like just trying to keep
Mhm.
track of continuity and all that shit. No. So I do it straight over a course of like
Throughout
whatever
the summer.
15 days mainly.
Yeah,
So, yeah. But yeah, so
nice,
film it in June. It should be then, at least ready to be somewhat screened by December, November of next year.
nice.
And then it'll be Mrs. Claus 2. Yay.
There you go. There you go. Can't wait for that.
That's gonna be fun.
Can't
That
wait for
really
that.
is gonna be fun. I guarantee it. People have a blast with that one.
Now with Mrs. Claus too, are you so because we did mention franchise? Are you doing? How many movies do you plan on doing with that? Like,
So the ending of Mrs. Claus 2, I will just leave this here. The ending of Mrs. Claus 2 begs for a Mrs. Claus 3.
okay, I
It's
like
an
that.
open ending. Like the film is going to end, and people are like, okay, there has to be a Mrs. Claus 3 now, right?
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. That
Yeah.
is fair.
How
Now
many?
before
How many would I take? I don't know. I mean, I think a nice trilogy might wrap up that whole
rest of the
thing
trilogy, okay,
nicely. Yeah, yeah.
he may change his mind though. People just wait. I don't even
Well,
know
yeah.
him, but I'm just saying I don't know
I,
him well. Just from this hour we were
well,
talking, but
it
he may
depends
change
on
his
how.
mind.
I mean, it depends on how well
No
they
longer.
do. It depends
That's
on
true.
how if
Very true.
I definitely would say Mrs. Claus is my best, or not my best, but my most known film. Like, it did pretty well sales
Mhm.
wise, and like the trailer for it has like almost 1 million views on YouTube. I mean,
That's awesome.
it's done pretty well. So I mean, who knows? Maybe people are begging for Mrs. Claus to go on a rampage on Valentine's Day or St. Patrick's Day or Thanksgiving. I don't know.
Oh, so she's just gonna go wherever the hell she wants.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
guys listen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
check it
I would
out.
probably if I did the third one, I would probably take it back to Christmas.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
Kind of nice 180 or 380
Yeah.
back to where it started. But yeah, so there's definitely some possibilities.
Nice, nice. Now, before we wrap this one up, you want to let the lovely people know where they can find you, and then I'll let you go and do my little closing.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Troy Escamilla. You can find me on if you want to add me on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, Troy ESC, Twitter, Troy Escamilla. Hollow Lake has its own Facebook group where I do post, casting updates, news, things like that related to the film. So check that out. I also, like I said, I co-host a podcast, Dark Night of the Podcast, that you can find on like Apple Podcasts, any podcast app. Find it. Like I said, we're about 118 episodes in. Have a lot of fun doing that, and we dive deep into film. So if you want to get more of my perspective on various horror films, check that out. But also, like I said, check out the Hollow Lake Indiegogo. Anything you can throw at it. There's lots of perks available, and let's get that goal. Whew. That's what we're working at.
Hell yeah. Get that out there. People go check it out. And again, if you can't afford to, back the Indiegogo, just hit that share. Just hit that share.
Yeah. I mean, I share the link because it does help, because then Indiegogo kind of has an algorithm where they see how many which campaigns are getting shared on social media. And that might encourage them then to feature the film on their, their page of featured projects. So check it. Yeah. Even a share helps.
Yes. And I want to thank you for coming on. I had a great time. Definitely going to have you on again. We'll definitely be talking in the near future.
Oh, absolutely. Fine. Yeah, I definitely. Let's pick a cheesy 80s slasher film to review, and I am totally on.
Boom. Perfect. You heard it. You heard it. I'm holding to it, people. I'm holding to it.
I will be there.
But again, man, thank you so much for coming on. Greatly appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great rest of your day. And people, again, go check them out. Go back to Indiegogo. At least hit the share. Again, at least hit the share, but at least go give it a look. And have a great day, Tony. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me on. It was a blast.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye.
Have a good one, sir.
You too.
Have a good one, man. Now, for all of you, listen. Follow Horror with Sir Sturdy. Facebook. You already know. YouTube. Twitter. TikTok. Instagram. X. All that fun stuff. @_Sir Sturdy. Horror with Sir Sturdy. You can just Google Horror with Sir Sturdy and find all the stuff there. But be back Tuesday, 8:00 Eastern time. We got some fun stuff. Just keep paying attention. Keep looking. You'll know, if not today, you will know tomorrow. But on that note, I will see you in your nightmares. You guys have a great rest of your day. Fuck the Cowboys. Peace.